Turn up your volume right now and listen to this hidden mic recording smuggled straight from the Sandringham study. Put the pen down, William. If you sign that paper, I will strip your children of their titles before the sun rises. Do not test me. That is the exact moment King Charles completely lost control. You heard that absolutely right. A terrifying, top-secret war has just ignited inside Buckingham Palace, forcing a midnight code red lockdown across London. At exactly 3:14 a.m., King Charles executed an unexpected, stone-cold sovereign maneuver that has left Prince William and Queen Camilla completely ruined. This isn't a typical family argument. The king has just unearthed a classified 1996 dossier proving that his own inner circle was plotting a bureaucratic coup to force his abdication. In a fit of absolute, unyielding rage, Charles retaliated by freezing William's entire multi-billion-pound portfolio, forcing a panicked Prince William to secretly dial California in the middle of the night to beg Prince Harry for emergency protection. Right now, global financial markets are experiencing a total flash crash, and riot police are scrambling to contain the chaos building outside the palace gates. Is Prince William preparing to execute a brutal counterstrike against his own father? Over the next 90 seconds, we are going to play the restricted audio leaks and expose the clinical tracking data that the palace is desperately trying to delete from the internet. Do not skip a single second because the monarchy is actively imploding, and what we are about to reveal could get this entire channel banned by morning. To truly understand why a screaming match exploded inside the Sandringham study in the dead of night, you have to look past the perfectly manicured smiles, the royal parades, and the multi-million-dollar public relations shield. The mainstream media has spent years feeding you a clinical, heavily calculated lie. They painted a picture of a seamless transition of power after Queen Elizabeth II passing, trying to convince the global public that King Charles was merely a placeholder king, quietly keeping the throne warm for his pristine, perfect heir, Prince William. But behind the bulletproof glass of the royal vehicles and the massive oak doors of Kensington Palace, a vicious, multi-layered ideological war has been rotting the House of Windsor from the inside out. And this explosion wasn't just random, it was mathematically inevitable. The root of this systemic hatred traces all the way back to 1996, a dark and volatile year when the monarchy was tearing itself apart during the high-profile divorce of Charles and Princess Diana. According to highly classified intelligence memos leaked from the deepest vaults of the royal archives at Windsor, the late Queen Elizabeth II realized that the toxic fallout of that era could eventually destroy the entire family line. In total secrecy, working with a hand-picked committee of old-guard constitutional lawyers and high-level defense officials, she drafted an ironclad, emergency safety protocol known within the intelligence community as the Windsor Default Directive. It was a legal nuclear option hidden inside the sovereign mainframe, stating that if the core lineage ever became so compromised by corporate infiltration, internal espionage, or mutual warfare that the very existence of the crown was threatened, the reigning monarch had the absolute unilateral authority to strip the heir of all financial independence and freeze the entire line of succession. For 30 years, that file sat in the dark, a loaded gun pointed directly at the future of the monarchy. Meanwhile, the real-world tension between father and son reached a terrifying boiling point over the last 24 months. As King Charles began stepping back from public duties to manage his complex medical treatments, a predatory network of international corporate donors, billionaire property developers, and ambitious politicians began circling Prince William's office at Kensington Palace. They didn't see Charles as a king, they saw him as an obstacle. Highly sensitive digital tracking logs revealed that senior aides within William's inner circle were quietly holding closed-door meetings with international hedge fund managers, offering future royal estate concessions in exchange for massive capital injections into the Duchy of Cornwall. When King Charles's private security detail intercepted encrypted communications detailing a fully drafted regency protocol, a bureaucratic coup designed to declare the king mentally and physically incapacitated the exact second his health wavered, the aging monarch flew into a cold, clinical fury. Charles realized that his own son wasn't waiting for his legacy. He was actively trying to execute it. The betrayal became deeply personal when the king discovered that his phone lines, his medical records, and even Queen Camilla's private financial diaries were being systematically monitored by cybersecurity firms contracted by Kensington Palace. The king looked at the surveillance data and completely broke down. A deep-cover courtier embedded within the Privy Council staff revealed under conditions of absolute anonymity. He realized every single person in his household was playing a double game. William wasn't just preparing to be king, he was treating his father like a corporate rival who needed to be hostilely taken over. The king knew that if he didn't strike first, he would be forced into a locked room at Windsor Castle while his son ruled the realm by proxy. Charles spent 6 weeks operating in total digital isolation, utilizing a secure, standalone satellite network that bypassed the palace's primary server hubs. He methodically verified the corporate infiltration, mapped out every single hidden offshore account tied to William's duchy advisors, and unburied his mother's 1996 directive. He knew that any public confrontation would allow William's high-priced legal teams to block his executive powers. He had to wait for the perfect psychological moment, the dead of night when the entire security apparatus was at its lowest alert level. When the clock struck 3 a.m. at Sandringham House, the king summoned William for what was supposed to be an emergency family briefing regarding estate management. William arrived completely off guard, accompanied by 2 of his chief financial advisors. They expected a weak, exhausted father ready to sign over more administrative control. Instead, they walked straight into a cold, clinical trap. The doors were locked from the outside by the king's personal guard, the cell phone signals were completely jammed, and Charles was sitting behind a desk holding the 1996 black dossier. The look of absolute, icy venom in the king's eyes told William everything he needed to know. The fake smiles were over, the bloodline war was officially live, and the palace was about to become an absolute slaughterhouse of raw ambition and devastating revenge. The silence inside the Sandringham library at 3:12 a.m. was suffocating. Outside, a heavy storm battered the glass windows, but inside the air was pure ice. King Charles sat completely still behind his heavy mahogany desk. Across from him stood Prince William, his posture stiff, his eyes burning with a dangerous mix of arrogance and confusion. On the desk lay a single thick black leather binder, the 1996 Windsor Default Directive. Charles leaned forward, his voice dropping into a low, terrifyingly steady whisper. "You thought I was blind, William? You thought because I was managing my treatments, I wouldn't see the corporate signatures on the Duchy of Cornwall accounts? You sold the family's legacy to international hedge funds just to bankroll your shadow regency." William's face instantly flushed an angry, volatile crimson. He took a violent step forward, slamming his hands flat onto the desk, his voice echoing off the high stone walls. "I am trying to save this institution from your incompetence, father." William roared, completely abandoning any trace of royal protocol. "You are trapped in the past. Your environmental crusades are bleeding our historical estates dry. Yes, I brought in modern capital, and yes, we drafted the Regency protocols. Because look at yourself, you can barely stand. If I don't take control, this family will be completely irrelevant before the year ends." Charles didn't flinch. Slowly, he opened the black binder and pushed a single red-stamped financial decree across the table. "I am the sovereign," Charles hissed, his eyes narrowing into slits of pure venom. "And by the authority vested in me by my mother in 1996, I have just stripped the Duchy of Cornwall of its traditional governance. Your funds are frozen. Your access to the Royal Communications mainframe is terminated. As of 3 minutes ago, you are financially bankrupt, William." William stared at the paper, his breathing suddenly turning shallow and gasping. The reality of the financial execution hit him like a physical blow. In a state of absolute, unadulterated panic, William lunged across the desk, wildly grabbing the front of his father's tailored suit jacket, his knuckles turning paper white. "You old fool." William screamed directly into his father's face, his voice cracking with pure rage. "You cannot run this empire from a hospital bed. If you freeze my assets, I will take Catherine and the children, leave London by sunrise, and tell the global press exactly how unstable you really are." Charles violently threw his son's hands off his jacket, standing up with an unnatural, furious energy. "Put the pen down, William," the king bellowed, his voice reaching a terrifying crescendo. "If you sign a single document to fight this decree, I swear by God I will strip your children of their royal titles before the sun rises. Do not test me. I will see you in exile before I let you sell this crown to corporate syndicates." William stumbled backward, his chest heaving as the absolute horror of the king's threat settled in. His own children stripped of their blood right. He instinctively reached into his pocket, pulled out a secure, encrypted satellite device, and dialed a number he hadn't called in months. "Harry?" William whispered frantically into the receiver, his voice shaking uncontrollably as he turned away from his father. "He's gone mad. He's frozen the duchy. He's locking down Camilla's quarters. Harry, you are a co-trustee of the late Queen's offshore accounts. I need your legal team to launch an emergency injunction from California right now, or we lose everything." But as William pleaded with his exiled brother in the dark, the ultimate, devastating first twist was already exploding into the digital ether. When William had lunged across the desk, his elbow had violently struck the main security console on the edge of the table. The impact didn't just crack the interface, it automatically triggered the room's high-sensitivity emergency lockbox microphone, a system designed to record audio for state security during an assassination attempt or a physical breach. Because the palace communications mainframe had been partially decoupled by Charles's own digital purge, the security system's automated protocol overrode the internal firewalls and began broadcasting the live audio feed directly onto an open-source, encrypted emergency legal network used by London's high-ranking magistrates. Within 90 seconds, a rogue technical analyst on the network realized what they were listening to. The raw, unfiltered 30-second audio file of Prince William screaming about bankruptcy, lunging at the king, and begging Prince Harry for emergency protection from California was uploaded onto a decentralized whistleblower forum. The internet did not just react, it completely buckled. The file spread across global news feeds like a digital tsunami, throwing the entire global media landscape into a state of absolute, unmitigated pandemonium before the guards could even unlock the library doors. By 4:15 a.m., the internet was in a state of absolute, paralyzed pandemonium. The raw, unfiltered audio clip of Prince William lunging across the desk at King Charles had broken through every media barrier on the planet. Within 45 minutes of hitting the decentralized whistleblower network, the hashtags #RoyalAssault, #KingStrikesBack, and #FreeCamilla obliterated the global algorithms, accumulating an unprecedented 1.9 billion views across TikTok, X, and Reddit. Every major news network from BBC World to CNN dropped their scheduled programming, playing the clip on an infinite loop while forensic sound experts analyzed the sound of the scuffle over the desk. As viral threads erupted with leaked screenshots from inside London's high courts, the true terrifying secondary nuclear twist detonated from across the Atlantic. Prince Harry's high-powered American legal team in California didn't just file an emergency injunction to protect William's frozen assets. According to an explosive data drop that hit the internet at 4:32 a.m., Harry's lawyers had quietly counterstruck by activating a highly classified clause within the late Queen Elizabeth's private international estate allocations. The leaked legal documents revealed that Prince Harry wasn't just stepping in as a co-trustee. His legal team was moving to freeze the entire global financial network of the British monarchy. They filed a massive cross-border emergency suit in the High Court of London, alleging that King Charles's sudden midnight activation of the 1996 Windsor Default Directive was executed under medical duress, rendering the king legally incapacitated. This masterstroke effectively locked King Charles out of his own offshore sovereign reserve funds, paralyzing the financial operations of the entire royal family. Right as the financial freeze went live, a verified digital account matching Prince William's private communications team leaked a stunning, unvetted message onto the web. The sovereign has locked down the family. We are operating under a digital hostage situation. The truth will be told at dawn. The entire global media landscape exploded. The battle lines were drawn in blood, the crown's multi-billion-pound empire was completely frozen, and the next cliffhanger was about to push the world to the absolute brink. The moment the news of Prince Harry's cross-border legal strike and the absolute freezing of the monarchy's global financial reserve fund hit the public domain, the entire world went into a state of absolute, unmitigated chaos. The digital landscape did not just react, it completely buckled. Within 60 minutes, the hashtags #Windsor Civil War and #The Royal Crash shattered every single digital engagement metric in human history, surging past a combined 2.8 billion views across TikTok, X, and Instagram. As news feeds updated every 10 seconds with live video feeds from independent creators, global financial markets reacted with pure, unadulterated panic. The London Stock Exchange suffered a devastating flash crash. The British pound plummeted by a staggering 9.2% against the US dollar, marking its worst single-day collapse in modern economic history. High-frequency trading algorithms, registering the absolute constitutional instability and the legal freezing of the sovereign estate, began aggressively dumping UK assets at a terrifying pace. Financial anchors on Bloomberg and CNBC stood in front of bleeding red market charts, visibly shaken, openly stating that the royal family's private civil war had pushed the entire British economy to the absolute brink of systemic bankruptcy. Inside the media landscape, the ongoing coverage was pure, unfiltered warfare. Live television networks completely abandoned their commercial scripts as royal commentators and legal experts practically screamed at each other on split screens. This is no longer a simple family dispute. This is an international economic catastrophe, a prominent investigative journalist shouted during an emergency live broadcast on Sky News. We have a reigning king frozen out of his own sovereign funds by his exiled son's American lawyers, while the heir to the throne is operating under a digital hostage situation. The credibility of this country is being completely annihilated on live television. On the streets of London, the atmosphere turned explosive. Over 50,000 furious protesters swarmed the gates of Buckingham Palace. The crowd was violently split down the middle, hardcore royal traditionalists waving banners screaming, "Protect the King," clashed directly with massive anti-monarchy student factions chanting, "The crown is corrupt. Let it burn." Riot police had to form an iron wall, deploying smoke canisters and flashbangs to prevent the two massive factions from physically tearing each other apart. Meanwhile, high-profile international luxury brands and multi-million-dollar corporate sponsors began quietly scrubbing any royal warrants and partnerships from their global marketing campaigns. Terrified of being associated with a dynasty that was actively imploding in front of the entire world, global tech giants and high-end automotive conglomerates released clinical public statements declaring they were suspending their financial contributions to all royal foundations pending a full constitutional investigation. The palace's carefully manufactured prestige was completely dead, and the global public was holding its breath, desperately waiting for the final devastating blow to land. The howling storm outside Windsor Castle reached a deafening crescendo at exactly 5:30 a.m. Inside the underground cybersecurity bunker, Prince William stood frozen before the primary tracking terminal, his bloodshot eyes staring at a blinking purple indicator on the global radar screen. The entire palace network had just suffered a massive systemic power failure, leaving the royal staff operating under dim, pulsing red emergency lights. Suddenly, the encrypted terminal did not just flicker. It was completely overridden by an automatic transponder signal originating straight from a private hangar at RAF Nordholt. A sharp, digital warning tone echoed through the suffocating darkness of the bunker, and a restricted flight ledger appeared on the screen. It wasn't an official state departure log. It was a tactical military flight manifest authorized under an unlisted sovereign transport protocol that bypassed the Ministry of Defense completely. William took a slow, trembling step closer to the monitor, his chest tightening as his eyes scanned the automated tracking data. The ultimate, bone-chilling shocker had officially detonated. King Charles hadn't stayed behind to fight the emergency injunction filed by Prince Harry's California lawyers. He hadn't waited for the London courts to rule on his financial freeze. Under the cover of the total digital blackout he had initiated at 3:14 a.m., the king had quietly boarded an unmarked VVIP military transport helicopter, completely abandoning London in the middle of the night. But the absolute nuclear explosion of the reveal wasn't just the king's midnight flight. A high-ranking security technician, his hands shaking uncontrollably, pulled up the digital weight distribution logs from the aircraft's cargo bay. The data proved that before boarding, King Charles's personal guard had loaded a heavy, high-security titanium lockbox containing the physical, undigitized primary sovereign wealth ledger, the single historical document containing the true ownership deeds, offshore account routing numbers, and hidden asset allocations of the entire global royal empire. "He has completely decoupled himself from the state," William whispered, his voice dropping into a hollow, terrified vibration that made the staff behind him turn pale. "My father didn't flee to protect his health. He took the entire family's wealth and left the borders. He is taking the crown's global assets completely offline." Right at that exact millisecond, the central screen flashed with a final, catastrophic automated transmission sent from the helicopter's secure satellite uplink just before it crossed international borders. The text contained a single, devastating message addressed directly to Prince William and Prince Harry. "You fought over an empty throne. The empire goes with me." The terminal screen instantly went completely dead, plunging the entire Windsor command center into an absolute pitch-black silence. Where is King Charles flying with the wealth of the monarchy? What happens to a kingdom left completely bankrupt by its own sovereign? The ultimate global war for survival has officially begun, and the crown is already gone. The British monarchy has just been stripped to its absolute bones on live television, and the ultimate judgment rests completely in your hands. King Charles has officially fled the country with the primary wealth ledger, leaving Prince William and Prince Harry fighting over an empty, bankrupt throne. Now it's your turn. Smash the comment section right now with your raw, unfiltered thoughts. Is King Charles a master strategist taking back control, or has his intense paranoia completely destroyed the royal family? Don't wait. Like, share, And subscribe immediately with all notifications turned on before the palace scrubs this footage off the face of the internet.